is where we hold them. This is where we fight.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.
Rob, what's good, homie?
Mike, what's going on, man? What's happening, dude? You've been busy, I hear. Talking to you before, man. We got
party at the crib for 50 plus people on Saturday, and I've been going nonstop for the last 2 weeks trying to, prep the crib, get things in order, projects that I've wanted to do that take a back seat when I'm working and things of this nature. So we're talking about some tree trimming, some touch-up painting, landscaping, power washing, all the above. I do it all, Rob. I do it all.
Man, how's the knee? How's the knee feeling?
80%. 80%. It's still bothering me a little bit, but listen, I there's no time to make excuses, Rob. I'll be honest. I don't have time for excuses. You either get out and do the work, or it ain't gonna do itself. So I'm always putting that work in. Trying to prep for this birthday party on Saturday. My younger daughter's birthday was Tuesday. My older daughter's birthday is tomorrow. Shout to Liv. Happy birthday, Liv. And that's about it. So
all right. Well, there's a lot going on in the chat, but okay, so we don't want to keep Belmo waiting. The last thing you want to do is keep the GOAT waiting. But let's go over your league review.
No, let's skip it.
You don't want to do your league review?
We'll skip it. We'll come back to it.
But you're on the house shot.
He's only going to make fun of me because I shot 650 on the house shot anyway. So we can.
All right. Well, we're not going to keep him in the lobby anymore. Let's bring him on.
Let's get to the topic of the hour, right?
Okay.
And the topic of the hour is the Olympics is going on, and this led to Primetime Poppy. Shout to Primetime Poppy on Twitter. He's always interacting with us on X. Shout to you. He hit us up basically saying like, "Yo, why is bowling not in the Olympics? How can breakdancing and some of these other activities be in the Olympics and bowling is not?" So that led you on a journalistic journey, bro. Let me tell you something. Our boy was putting the work in this week. All right. While I was putting the work in on my house, he was putting the work in, contacting people, getting quotes, getting information. So as part of that, you reached out to Belmo. He said that he wanted to come on because he didn't trust you to properly quote him, and I feel him on that. So let's bring him on. He's here. Let's bring him on.
Yo, what's going on, lads?
What's good?
Not much. Yes, you are 100% right, Mike. I spoke with Rob, and as soon as I started talking, I'm like, you are going to absolutely butcher every one of these quotes, make shit up, and then I'm going to get into trouble as if I said it. So I'm like, can I just come on the show and say the words out of my own mouth so that if I get into trouble, at least it's my own fault?
Man, the trust that you people don't have in me is very, very
listen, let me be fair. I wouldn't trust either of you, all right? It wasn't just Rob.
I wouldn't trust either of us either.
Hey, I have a lot of research. I got my ducks in a row for this show. So, but look, like I reached out to not only players, right? I reached out to some of the top players. I reached out to you. I reached out to Bill. I reached out to a few other players that wanted to be nameless. And some of the stuff they were talking to me. I also reached out to the top of our industry. I reached out to Chad Murphy. I reached out to Tom Clark. I reached out to Jeff Riggles. I reached out to my brother who worked for Team USA for a while. I wanted to get all ends of it. I want to hear all sides of it, right? So I guess like literally I'm going to get right into it, Belmo. And my first question right out of the gate is, why isn't bowling in the Olympics? It's just a really simple question that I asked everybody. And it's amazing how much of the same topic answers that I heard coming from everybody, but in a little bit of a different variations of it.
Yeah, right. Well, let me answer this really openly and transparently. The direct answer is we don't know. That's the direct answer. We have feedback, and I may have a slightly different and unique perspective because for the Tokyo 2020 games, when we were trying to get in there, if you can recall, back then, we were on a short list of 8 sports. We had made it to a short list. And so for that short list of 8 sports, we were invited to the Japanese Olympic Committee for a hearing to essentially pitch our case. And I was invited there as an athlete to represent the athletes. I had to give like a 2 or 3 minute speech on, what bowling means to me, what bowling means to the world, why I, as an athlete, thought we were deserving of a spot in the Olympics. And from that hearing, we were given a little bit of feedback. But ultimately, the most obvious feedback you can get is when you aren't selected, who was selected? Now, to give a direct, these are the 1, 2, 3 reasons why you're not, we aren't ever told those things. No Olympic Committee member says, if you just change these handful of things or this list, if you change them, you will get in. It's not quite like that. What I can say is, and I know this for a fact, it has absolutely nothing to do with the rules of the game, the scoring of the game, the equipment that we use. Zero. None. Not even 1%, not even maybe, no. They, as in the Olympic committees, could care less about interfering with each and every sport's rules. What they hope is that the governing body of that sport has rules and formats in place, and they are to be governed through that sport's governing body. So it's a little frustrating when you see somebody go Brooklyn and someone's like, that's why we're not in the Olympics. Or when someone's using reactive or urethane, oh, that's why we're not in the Olympics. No, like we got to stop pretending that that's a reason. Now, you may not like that as an individual. You may not think, well, my level of what is determined to be an Olympic sport shouldn't have a Brooklyn strike type reward or the use of advanced technology. Like, you can have that opinion, but that's not the reason we're not in the Olympics. The most, I don't want to say obvious, but the road in which it looks like, because again, no one can be certain why we are not directly in the Olympics, was a demographic age thing. That's what it looks like. When they're including sports like breakdancing, there's a lot more X Games type stuff in the Olympics now than there were when I was growing up. And so a lot of these very high action, dangerous to some degree, very quick as well. Like, the BMX track, you've got a minute to do as many tricks as you can in a minute. Like, that is very quick. That seems to be one of the reasons why we as an industry don't appeal to the Olympics. We aren't known as a young kid sport from that same type of adrenaline rush, great spectacle. And I gotta be honest, it's the truth. Like, you compare what the guys do on a BMX bike to rolling a strike to the average person, it is visually impressive and scary. And I had my wife, we're watching the Olympics just the other night. The Australian guy who was the defending Olympic champion was in the BMX jump-in final. And every time they would do some kind of double backflip with some twist, she would gasp, like, are they going to fall? Like a verbal audio gasp of, oh my God, I thought they were going to get really hurt. And then we both look at each other and go, that's incredible. So I don't like it either when people say, well, if we're not in it, oh, what about these other sports? They shouldn't be in it either. Like, I kind of think you have to give a little credit for each of the athletes in each of these sports that make it there. You and I can't do it. You may not like it and you may not find it entertaining, but you got to still give a lot of credit to the athletes and the sports that have made it, including breakdancing. Like, I don't know how they're going to score it. I don't know how it's going to work. But what I do know is I can't just jump on the floor and start breakdancing like it's easy. Like, I got to respect the athlete and the sport. So
I'm a very good breakdancer.
That's where
You see me at a wedding, Belmo? Oh man,
Rob.
dude, I get crazy with the wedding. When that DJ hits, Little John and Usher, forget it. So sorry to cut you off here because
Gold Medal Rob, they're going to start calling you Brooklyn Rob, no more. It's going to be Gold Medal Rob.
Crazy Legs Rob.
So back to like the youth and what I've been, and I spoke to Jeff Riggles and I spoke to a few other people. They were talking like Tom Clark. They were talking about youth appeal being different than actual youth participation. Because one of my arguments was that, well, JOG is growing, right? 4,000 entries, 1,000 whatever spectators during like the last few weeks. But they kind of like, would you say like laugh at that? Because 1,000 spectators and a 4,000 Junior Olympic gold participation isn't really much when Jeff told me that breakdancing actually had almost 90,000 or spectators at their breakdancing event in Brazil. So how do you, I guess the question would be is then, how do you increase the youth appeal like for bowling? Is it even possible? Like how do you get to that point where the Olympic Committee will say, oh, wow, they're actually starting to go to that demographic and maybe we should welcome them in, in the future?
Yeah, look, it's a really good question. I just want to touch on something really quickly. You mentioned about youth appeal versus youth participation. I mean, again, I try to take a step back and just see it from a different lens rather than a bowler, because that bias in me makes it really difficult to be quite open and honest about it. But here in Australia, rugby is a really popular sport to watch. It's followed in all the newspapers. There's superstars here in Australia. But rugby and rugby league participation from kids is down because obviously it's a very physical game. And, as the years go on, more and more older rugby players are coming down with horrible head injuries and it's long-term effects. But there's more money now spent than ever on the pro leagues through contracts and endorsements and TV rights. And so again, when asked what should bowling do, I think the very first thing we have to be really aware of is we can't lose what we are in chasing something that we are not. We are not a spectator sport in which people will gasp because of terrifying, death-defying, brutally physical action sequences. We are a target sport. I think we are a more interesting and entertaining, or at least potentially entertaining target sport than, say, air rifling or archery. But to compare bowling to even those sports, again, very, very different reasons why they are in and we are not. They are obviously in archery more so than anything because of the tradition and just how old it is. It's never going to leave. So I say to myself, how do I make bowling appeal to a younger demographic? Because I don't know very many kids, and I say this purely from a personal experience perspective. I have no data to reflect this, but I don't know many kids that are like following the air rifle tour, right? And have air rifle kings and queens as posters on their wall. I'm sure there are some, but to the level of degree of which, like, basketball or golf or tennis, mainstream sports, very unlikely. So I say to myself, if I'm a target sport like that is, I'm not contact sport like football or any other BMX, even as the danger aspect. How do I make sure I don't lose who I am as a bowler and as a sport, just trying to get into the Olympics? Because I still feel that there's a sense of pride in what we are as a game. And you could say, well, what if we just turn this into like a one-shot roll-off? That's it. It's just one shots. We're not going to play games anymore. And I always think about the scales of entertaining and popularity and the tradition of the game, and where do we go? And if one side leans too much, so if it were more of a traditional sense, it would be far too boring for the masses. A 52 game event, like, 15,000 pinfall, like no one cares. We do, the professionals do. We love and we appreciate what it is, but one shot roll off is incredibly exciting. It's cutthroat, but we players and people within our game, we don't necessarily like that to win a gold medal. So you've got to try to find that balance. And I think we haven't found it. I don't really know what that could be. I think one of the appeals, which we did pitch to the Japanese Olympic Committee, was that we are somewhat, what's the word? We can be transported anywhere. And so let's use Paris. You could put, 8 lanes under the Eiffel Tower. You can also put them on a bridge. You can also be in a bowling center. You can move your venue much easier than many other sports. And so that was another thing that we have to be aware of is, yes, we have to appeal to a younger demographic. I don't want to lose who we are to do that. But at the same time, we have to generate money. Ticket sales being one of them. So a bowling center, you can probably cut that out, at least for the final part, the end of the tournament, the roll-off, step ladders, whatever format you would do, because you just can't fit enough people inside a bowling center. So it has to be built. And you'd have to have a minimum of 5,000 or 6,000 people to be able to watch it, so they can sell tickets and make money. I think it also needs to be, we need to work on visually, our TV visuals as well. I think we have an opportunity to do a lot more. One of the things I've been saying for maybe a decade is I wish we would host bowling in a basketball court, tennis court or arena, but bring in perspex sidewalls and have pin boys. So we remove the machines and we just have this very clear perspex, and then we have a view, 360 degree view of the bowling. I also think we can get super close to it. And so much like a golfer hitting a ball out of the rough, and he's got this kind of gallery of players on either side, I think that's kind of cool. It looks kind of cool. I think it also makes it more accessible for fans to get closer to the action. I mean, I saw a few pictures of some of the people watching like the swimming, and it's a long way back, the very top right-hand corner. But that doesn't matter because you're there. And so I want bowling to have that same perspective, where in now, a traditional sense, once you go too far left and right, you can no longer see the pin deck. And there's a ceiling above us, so we can only fit in so many. So I think that would be kind of cool. And I think that would be something that would, again, create a more of a spectacle. I feel like I'm rambling on a little bit here.
No,
I want to ask a question. And you generally speaking, I feel like the leadership of world bowling has kind of been erratic for some time. Like, you have the IBF and you have some of these different organizations, but there's been a lot of issues, right? To sum it up especially I'd say over the last 5 years or so, maybe even 10. Do you think that the fact that there is no real regular world bowling competition impacts our chances of getting into the Olympics? Like, for instance, there, if every year or even every other year there was an event where 5-person teams from different countries from around the world were assembling and coming and bowling an official competition that's sponsored under the various organizations, sanctioning organizations of our game. I mean, in America, mainly, I'd be talking here about the USBC and the PBA. If we had something like that where it's a regular competition every year, every other year, 5-man teams, five women teams from around the world coming to the same place competing. Personally, I feel like that would create a really great environment to like showcase the game in that manner. But we don't really have that. Do you think that contributes at all to the lack of success of getting into the Olympics? Or do you think that would help if we did have it?
Yeah, I don't think it would hurt us. I can't say for certain if the lack of leadership and direction is a direct reason why we're not in. Again, I was at the hearing for Tokyo 2020, and even then we had, I think it was World Bowling at the time, that was claiming to be the global governance of the game. And I don't think, and even then we weren't really united as a global industry under the World Bowling umbrella. Like, we still had players from around the world, players as in leadership groups, who were not supportive of that. And I don't think that ever came into question from the IOC or the Japanese IOC. I think, again, they see the dramas within the sport. And I'm not, again, I can't be certain. I think it would help us. It can't hurt us if we are governed by a strong leadership that knows what they're doing. That would help us. But I don't necessarily think it's the reason we're not in the Olympics.
Well,
my
point is,
dude, if you go around the world and you start looking at leadership groups, I mean, between corruption, just ridiculous dramas and issues within
I know. Look at FIFA.
many sports organizations.
Yeah, FIFA
it just
is
comes
a great
down
example.
to who are you appealing to, so we as a brand, the Olympics, can grow, and how much money can we make? And at the same time, it is, I don't know, I don't necessarily hate that people have got to make money from the Olympics, because it's a wonderful spectacle and it costs a lot of money. So someone's got to make money in order to host them. You can't expect the nation to give up billions of dollars to host this ridiculously large event for nothing. So you got to make sure that you're appealing to their demographic and their plans of the future for their brand, but also you're going to make sure you can generate a lot of money for them. Now, here is where I think we can really generate a lot of money for them. Not very many sports have a local hub of businesses that you can connect. So every bowling center in the world is a potential platform to sell something, to grow something, to communicate something, and to also be a part of something. So if bowling were united, if we had that, as you said, one leadership group, and underneath that you had the manufacturers of the equipment, the proprietors of the world, the other businesses within bowling, and the athletes all on this next level, and we were all working towards this common goal where, as an athlete, I'm expected to make appearances in proprietor centers. As a proprietor, I'm expected to collect data from my users, from my customers, so I can share that with the governing body to better market, or to even give the IOC, like, most of our data is not incredibly accurate. It's either outdated, or we take polls from a small number of groups of people, and we magnify it to what it would be if it were larger, like all polls are. But imagine going somewhere and saying, hey, across every platform in the world of bowling, every bowling center, we have had access to 217,333,407 people. oh, and by the way, we can tell you that these people bowled for an average of this many hours. This is how much money they're spending. And then we can, as a collective group, take that data and say, you may not think we appeal to the younger demographic. However, we can make you a lot of money. And there goes the scales again. So the IOC may say, might not be our cup of tea, but if they're claiming to give us millions and millions of dollars in revenue through their connection of businesses around the world, maybe it's worth pursuing. You can't say that to the IOC because we don't have it in place. And I don't think we ever can, because pretty much everyone I know, I shouldn't say everyone, this is where I get into trouble. I sometimes let my passion run out and I exaggerate. But there are too many people in our game that want that little extra percentage of the pie for themselves. And if they would be willing to share a little more, work together, I think we could do something like that. And it might not be in the next 10, 20 years, but maybe in the next 7 or 8 Olympic cycles, we would have a lot more information behind us to then go into bat. And money. You need money to lobby. You absolutely need money to be able to go to places, meet people, do what you need to do in terms of advertising and marketing on a global level to get eyeballs on bowling. I mean, I just saw the Sports Illustrated post that said sports that probably should be or could be in the Olympics but aren't. And the fact that bowling isn't visually on the isn't on the mind and is not a visual thing for them to be like, hey, how come bowling? Yeah, that's weird. You know, they had cue sports, billiards. I don't think billiards has a bigger profile in most of the world than bowling, but somehow they've done a better job at promoting themselves to be, and we haven't. And so therein lies the fundamental answer of your very first question, Rob, is why are we not in the Olympics?
So great. I mean, great insight, really. So my question, and when we originally talked, we said it would be 20 minutes. So I'm trying to keep this short for you, so we're not keeping you so long. 2032, I'm sure you have that year marked on your calendar because the Summer Olympics are going to be in Australia. Now, from my understanding, now, like you just talked about you had to go in front of a representatives from Japan, right, to do a presentation for them. With it being in Australia in 2032, and that being obviously your home country, and you have obviously some ties with probably Australian bowling, right? Like, do you feel like your ties, if everybody, what you said, kind of came together and tried to put their best foot forward with your ties with Australia, you think you might have a better chance to try to get into Australia Summer Games in 2032?
I don't know, but I would be willing to put my time and energy behind it. And as much as I already travel and spend time away, because it's not a one meeting commitment. The one that I spent in Tokyo for me was a one meeting commitment, but the people who were behind that to get us to the shortlist, that is a commitment that is nearly full time for, you know, not just even at one Olympic cycle, it could be multiple Olympic cycles. But I think at that point, if we had the things in place where I'm like, hey, this is worth me doing this because we have a structure in place that I believe in, then I would give that up. I would do that. I would do that for bowling and for the bowlers. I don't think I'd be so bold to say, yeah, because I'm Australian and the Olympics in Australia, that's going to make a difference. I don't know. I just think if we don't have a crack at it, then we don't know. But it's honestly, it'd be like going, if I just put my hand up and started tweeting at some of the Australian Olympic Committee members going, hey, you should listen to me and bring bowling in. I mean, that would just be pointless. So we've got to come together as an industry. I suppose the question really, the question is, why are we not in the Olympics? Sometimes I ask the question, why do we want to be? I mean,
okay, that's a good one.
I think of it from this perspective that if we're going to spend time, energy, and money fighting a battle we may not know we will ever win, why not spend that time, money, and energy just growing the game? Like, not for a specific. Now, I get it. I get the idea of if you make the Olympics, you can grow. And there are a lot of countries that would benefit from government funding and so forth. But that's not a guarantee. I'll tell you what is a guarantee. If we poured tens of millions of dollars into, as a collective group, not individuals doing their own, as a collective group for the next 10, 20 years, and we poured millions of dollars, we'll be better. We'll make more money. Businesses will be better. Bowling will grow. That's an automatic. So you can spend the money to get into the Olympics as a possibility, as a maybe, or you can spend the money and just make the game better from grassroots through to the professional level, men's, women's. I mean, I fight with that question all the time because, again, I love the Olympics. I think it's such an incredible spectacle, and I am jealous and have been jealous for most of my career watching athletes represent Australia, stand on a podium, and do something that's bigger than them. It's for their country, for my country. It means a lot. And like I said, my wife and I, for that period of time, we're watching a BMX athlete who unfortunately crashed out. We felt the pain with him. You know, I don't know the guy. I've never seen him ride ever. I don't follow it. I couldn't even tell you his name right now. I forgot it. But for that moment, I was willing him to win, and I wanted him to do his, double somersault, kick, flare, whatever they were calling. I don't know my terminology.
So I think that's like a good point of like why we want to be in the Olympics, and even just Googling like viewership, right, for this week. And I put that on our Facebook earlier. The first 3 days of the Olympics of this year in Paris, they had an average viewership of 35 million viewers on the first 3 days of the Olympics, right? Now, yeah, like obviously bowling was in the Olympics and they were not going to be on prime time like all the time, but there is a chance that bowling would get some exposure to millions and millions of more people around the world that it wouldn't be, right?
This is how it would be, Rob. This is how it would be. In Australia, we're a smaller nation. And so when we win gold, it's a bigger deal than maybe it is in the United States. We don't win as many as China and you. So when we win one, Australia makes a big deal of it. However, if a trap shooter wins, or even the BMX, right? Being in Europe, it's a little bit different because of the time zones. It makes it really hard for Australians to watch something in Europe because of the time zone. But for the most part, it's highlights. We wake up in the morning and we say, what happened overnight at the Olympics? There's going to be some hardcore fans, that'll stay awake to the Olympics because they're just in love with it, or they're following a specific athlete that they know and love and want to support them. But for the most part, we wake up, because after that BMX, it was 11 o'clock or just after. It's time for us to go to bed. So we missed out on the next 8 hours of Olympic sports. So would bowling get that prime time or that viewership, or would it be those niche sports when something happens, whether it's the gold medal is presented or something very unique, a 7-10 split? Would we then get a snippet, just a snippet of, and overnight, this is what happened. We had a 7-10 spare at the bowling Olympics squad, or these were the medal winners for the bowling event. Because that's what happens with us. Like we'll see the air rifle. Like we just saw the medal presentation, like who won the gold. I didn't see one gun fired. Nowhere on my television did that pop up. But I did see who won. And I think now there's a meme going around of a Turkish air rifleist who's, straight up gangster. Just needed
a sig.
No help, no assistance, no glasses, no nothing. It was pretty.
So actually, there are things like that which can generate viewership outside of the performance, outside of the competition. Again, have you seen him fire a shot? I haven't. I've only seen pictures and the memes going around of him standing with his hand in his pocket. So again, the sport itself maybe hasn't got the attention it thought it would get by being in the Olympics, because people would be like, that's impressive. Watch how still they are and how accurate they are. But because they were there is a very popular Turkish shooter now that people now associate air rifle or air targeting to the Olympics, that you may not know that was a discipline. Now you do, because of something wild. We could have that for bowling. But I don't know, like I said, I fight with myself all the time going, if I had $50 million, would I fight to get into the Olympics, or would I just spend $50 million growing the game globally and just making it better? I know that way I can for certain grow it and make it better, and I know I'm going to get improvement. I don't know if I'm going to I don't know if I'm going to spend $50 million and get into the Olympics. I don't know. So
can I tell you what you just made me think of, son? You just made me think that what would it have been like if Pete Weber had "Who Do You Think You Are? I Am" on an Olympic stage? That's what you just made me think of, with the discussion of the shooter and the memes going around and all that. I mean, that's what would happen with bowling, right? It would it wouldn't get the exposure that we wanted to get. It would get exposure through some other way that's only a short clip, or some, it's like you said, a 710 being made or something of that nature.
Josh Blanchard falling on the lane or something.
So I'm going to let you boys in on a little secret. I wasn't necessarily gonna say this, but when we're balancing the scales of entertainment and performance, right? Like how I said, you got to try to make sure you don't give up one too much, or the scales get out of whack. This season, and possibly the last couple of seasons, I've noticed as a performing arts, because we are entertainment, that, and I can only speak from me as an individual, how I appear to myself on television. When I'm in the moment, I think I'm incredibly focused, and I'm so in tune with the moments in front of me that I'm forgetting my true purpose outside of winning is to entertain. And I'd like to hope that when I throw a strike, that's entertainment enough, because I don't want to give up too much concentration. But then I caught myself this season really entertained by Paki Hanrahan, right? As an individual. At times, Carl Troop, where I'm looking at him going, yeah, I'm enjoying watching this. And forget about the performance of it, because that's sometimes when they don't bowl well, it's because you know them. So it's hard to enjoy a performance when someone's playing bad and you know them. But when they're bowling good, it's enjoyable to watch. And then I took a moment and reflected on, well, how have you been in the last few years? And I think I've been incredibly low key, very focused. And I think that's going to be something that I want to incorporate into my game next year, where younger demographic or not, we got to make the game more entertaining. Now, do I think Pete is entertaining? I do. I think he's entertaining, but he's entertaining in the same way as a car crash is. I'm stopping because I don't know what happened and I kind of want to see, but once I see it, I'm like, I feel bad. Like, I don't like what I'm seeing, but I'm watching. Right. And that's honestly how I felt about watching Pete and his antics for the last decade. I will watch it because it entertains me. But when it's over, when he walks off the approach, I think, I don't know if I really don't think that was any good. I actually don't think that was the entertainment that I find enjoyable. But I catch myself watching. So my point that I'm trying to make is maybe bowling does need its athletes who have exposure to do what they can to be more entertaining while still leveling out the scales where they're focused enough. There's no point going on these ridiculous rants.
Mike, I'm not standing up right now, by the way. I'm just going to keep sitting down here after what he just said. Belmo, if you need someone to hire to be your entertainment consultant. I will offer my services to you for free.
This is the difference between your entertainment and mine. You want it and you don't care if it's scripted. You don't care if there's two people that are having beef that is made up, so long as it is appealing to the... for me, the entertainment is organic, and in our game, we don't have that. We just don't. Like,
no.
I don't want scripted. And I really mean this. I really do mean this. The biggest beef that I can remember in bowling was between Sean and I. That was in 2012. By 2014, I didn't care about it anymore. I didn't bowl against him enough on television moving forward after. It wasn't like LeBron James and Steph Curry where you're going to see each other a lot. It's scheduled. You know what's happening. You can hype that rivalry. Or more importantly, something like Philadelphia and Boston or something like that where you have two blooded fan bases who don't like each other. And in our game, the entertainment that I'm talking about isn't head to head. It's just putting on a show. That's what I'm saying. That's what Packy did really well. Kevin Williams did really well at the World Series of Bowling.
That match was incredible.
Carl Troop does it really, really well. And I think that's what I want to bring, because I think I was more entertaining. And then I started winning by being more focused. And then I think I just went, I think I'm just going to stay this way. But at some point, why do I want to stay this way if we're not growing? Like, I don't want to bowl for, a $100,000 tournament anymore. I want to bowl for $1 million tournament. So, look, like I said, I rant sometimes and I go off.
Belmo, but you bowled enough high rollers.
But ultimately, to tie this in a nice little neat bow, we do have to appeal to the younger demographic, but we can't lose who we are, because we aren't lucky and we don't have the fortunate of rolling the dice on a completely new game where we will earn ourselves millions of new fans while separating ourselves from our core base, the ones who love the game and who have fallen in love with the game and who continue to love the game. So you've got to make sure you're new enough for the new kids on the block, old enough that you don't forget who you are, entertaining enough that it's enjoyable to watch, but you're still performing at a high level. And then ultimately at the very top of that, you need an industry to set aside ego, to invest money in it together, have a fund of money that we are all pouring into. My bowling center in Australia should be putting in $100, $1,000, and so should every other bowling center in the world. But I won't do that unless I have a leadership group that I believe in. So you take care of that first, and I don't think we have that in any part of our game. You tell me one leadership group that is celebrated, works well with everyone. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, but we've got to find a group of people that are willing to say, I will work with these people. And then I think it slowly trickles down, which is why I said to you, Rob, I don't know if it's going to be in the next one or two cycles. It will be in a very long time for that leadership group to have its roots in place, that people like you, me, and everyone else say, I'm in. What do you need? You need a donation? Let me give you $50. Maybe you would. Would you do it today? If any governing body today asked you for $50 to help the game, would you do it? Probably not. So it's got to start there, and then everyone else coming down needs to step up and do their bit. And then finally, those that are watching right now, your responsibility is you got to watch it. You got to watch it. You got to talk about it, and you got to share it. And even now, if you did more of that today, our game would immediately get better. It costs you nothing. And something I know most people comment on negative things, but if you saw something kind of cool, something good in the game, and you just shared a congratulations, that goes a long way. Because you think about 2 or 3 million people doing that across their socials, your bowling's going to be seen by more people. Just will. So, I don't know. That's where I would start. That's where I would finish. That's what I think. I'll take one question and then I'm out of here because I got stuff to do.
All right.
Mike has a
Well,
question about your house.
shout your sponsors. Shout the people that are supporting you. Let the people know.
I don't. I mean, every single person who's ever supported me has been incredible. But I can't say anyone is at the very top more than Storm.
It's got too many.
And 3G, dude, it's ridiculous. They are just the greatest people. And even though that we've lost Bill Chrisman, you get a sense that Bill Chrisman's still there in the company. And I love that. He's still there. Obviously 3G, the shoes, Coolwick, who makes this hoodie that I'm wearing, make them fly.
I like that. It's sick.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. We've got some new stuff coming out actually in a month. We've got a new drop coming out. So that's going to be cool. Who else? Yeah, well, usual suspects, and follow me on socials. But boys, appreciate your time.
Love the YouTube. You said one more question. I have one more question for you. I follow you on social media already, and I see you Instagramming out all these pictures of your property in Australia, and it looks quite expansive. It looks like you got quite a piece of land on your hands there. Here's my question to you: who maintains this property that you're constantly showing? Is it you? Am I looking at the person responsible for maintaining all this?
50% of it. Yeah. My wife is the other 50%.
Whoa. Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, seriously.
Wow.
So,
yo, shout to the wife, son. Oh my, because
we used to joke about inside and outside jobs, and if it was really, really painstaking, she would always say, "Hey, that's a you outside job, that one," but I think if you looked at and the way that we live indoors and outdoors, we pretty much share everything 50-50.
Hey, Mike, now I know why he's traveling over US all the time.
Yeah, right.
To get out of cutting the grass.
The lawns need doing, honey. I gotta go bowl the PGA League.
My God, it looks like you'd be out there for a month just cutting the grass, son. I'm not even joking. It's crazy. Man, this guy's got his work cut out for him.
Look at that. Dude,
yeah.
I don't want to ever hear about your backyard ever again, Mike.
Beautiful. Yo, listen, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
We appreciate all the thoughts on bowling in the Olympics. Obviously, topic that came up. We appreciate you jumping on with us, and you were very gracious with your time. So thank you for that.
We appreciate
you.
And,
I know you guys are off for a little while. You're going to Maine. You're going to Maine for the team event. Yes, you guys made it.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really pumped. Really excited about the PBA League. Being my first season as the manager, it's been a very unique insight into team bowling. I'm really enjoying working with the boys. It is super frustrating when it's more than just
the one cup that's eluded him, Mike. The one cup that's eluded him.
Yeah.
The one cup you haven't brought back yet.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
so
that and the Luci Doubles. I want to win the Luci Doubles one year, and I want to win the PBA League, and then I think that's everything.
And then
I don't think there's anything else.
All right, well, safe travels when you travel over in a few weeks for that. Enjoy Bayside. We'll be watching. Good luck taking down the cup, and thanks for the time again, bro.
Thank you.
Have a good one. See you later, everybody. Yep. Thanks for watching.
Later, Hoss. Thoughts, Rob?
Really insightful. I'll try to sum up a lot of what I found out in general from a lot of the topics of that came up. But he pretty much hit the nail on the head. And there's really not a whole lot more I could say to dispute or agree. I agree with everything he says. I think bowling needs to focus on itself. You know what it reminds me of, Mike? It reminds me of a girl rejecting you for a while. For let's just say you like a girl and you've asked her out for a year, 2 years, and she doesn't want to go out with you. The best way to really deal with that is to work on yourself. Go to the gym, make money, be the best version of yourself, right? And then you're going to attract other girls in a sense. And bowling, I think, needs to do that. Bowling needs to work on itself. Bowling needs to work on appealing to the youth. It needs to work on sponsorship money, more sponsors, and investing in itself. And then let the Olympics come to us in a way, right? Like, oh, well, we can't turn them down. They have millions of people watching. They have sponsorship. They have money. Hey, Lucas, Lucas says I clearly have experience with rejection. Why do you think I'm in such great shape? And I'm in the situation I'm in because I'm always working on myself. But no, in a sense, though, seriously, like, I think bowling needs to work on itself. And I think that's what Belmo was getting to. Like, why are we working on ourselves to get to a spot in the Olympics that we don't even know what the payback is going to be going to the Olympics? We don't even know if it's going to positively affect us to that extent where we're investing all this money and time to do it. Let's just take all the money and time and invest in ourselves. And I mean, eventually you're going to have to make a case where the Olympics aren't going to be able to turn you down. They're going to be like, oh crap, like bowling is a sport we need because of all the people. And that's kind of what I think really I took out of that interview. But in a sense, Mike, I did some work here and I want to kind of talk through some of the things that I kind of talked about in what I read and all the stuff I've been doing the last 2 days. And I want to make it really clear to everybody, and I can't make this clear enough. What Belmo said at the beginning of the interview, when it comes to the rules, the lane conditions, the lefty righty, the two-handers, the urethane, the purple hammer,
all the insider intricacies that people would think
yes,
are the reasons that bowling isn't in the Olympics.
It has nothing to do with it. Zero. And I want to make that clear because you can go on all the message boards and social media, and there is so much misinformation about that in the sport where, oh, well, bowling's on the Olympics because the lefties I've heard the lane man puts the lane conditions out so the Olympics don't. No, the Olympics, they don't care about any of that. They trust the governing bodies to govern their own sports and to follow by the rules and to they don't worry about any of that. So I just want to make that crystal clear. Also, look, the Olympics have a lot of judges, Mike, and the judges have their events and the judges make bad decisions too, right? So all of that like controversy when it comes to bowling, like it's kind of a moot point because there's a lot of controversy in the Olympics. I mean, I've seen 2 stories already the last 2 days that there's a huge amount of controversy going on right now in the Olympics. So any of the sport, like the lefty, righty, two-hander, all that stuff is moot point. The youth appeal is the number one. The JOG really isn't really moving the needle right now when it comes to any of the participation.
This is something that I wanted to say while Belmo was here. And like, I know we were trying to make it as quick as possible and let him, use our platform here to discuss the things he wanted to discuss. So I didn't want to interrupt him too much, but, listen, like you talk about youth appeal. I mean, what's been bigger for the youth appeal in bowling over the last 15 years than him, right? Than him throwing it with 2 hands. Like if there's anything driving young people to bowling, it's when they see someone like Belmo or Belmo himself throw the ball and do what he does, and they think, wow, that's a really awesome way to play this sport and play this game that I've never seen before. And it attracts them to go try it. And then they hook the ball and then they become, interested in it and so on and so forth. So
yeah, this also look like Fred brings it up. He says they don't tell you why. And that's another problem too. Imagine failing a test in school and you don't know why you failed. And I talked to my brother who even brought up a good point of like,
I'm very cynical. I'm cynical in general, and I'm definitely cynical about the Olympics. And I mean, if I'm being honest here, Rob, we always keep it 100 here.
Yeah.
To me, it's probably just because we're not bribing our way into the Olympics.
I mean, you never know. Like there's
like that. That's the way these kind of things roll.
Who knows?
Like bowling is not the kind of game that has the sort of money behind it to be engaged in those types of activities. So I hate to be that negative about it, but like when I think about bowling and why we're not in the Olympics, it's probably just because we're not spreading the money around to the right people in the right ways. So
Probably right. I mean, look,
I hate to be that way, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like that's probably the real reason.
A good too, example was my brother talked about how they like set the field goal and then like you kick it through the field goal and then they kind of move the posts and you don't know why they moved it, and you know what I mean. So like you never really know, and they kind of direct the sports into this is what we're looking for, and then you do the presentation to try to get in and you focus on those points, and then you still kind of don't get in and you don't know why. So Kevin Dornberger is the man who's been leading this charge for decades. Anybody you ask in the sport, if they ask you to talk about some like who's in the know on this, it's Kevin Dornberger. One of his comments was he talked about the youth is prized by advertisers who seek to gain brand loyalty from young consumers before their habits are formed. So that's an interesting statement from what I got sent to me by Jeff, because it's just like they're trying to get to the youth before they actually start making financial decisions. And bowling is not exactly a young demographic, right? And we all know that, right? If you've ever been to a bowling event. The one thing too is that the Olympics have noticed that there's been a huge dip in the Gen Z ratings, and they're concerned. So that's another point that was really interesting, because people who are watching the Olympics are older and they're concerned about the future in a way, right, Mike?
Well, yeah, that's another point that I think is important to say here is, like, to me, the Olympics has kind of jumped the shark anyway.
Sure.
Like the Olympics is not what it used to be.
Yeah, but they still having. I mean, you saw the viewership, and maybe that's because of like the main sports.
I know, but that's just because it's on TV.
It's on my work. All the TVs.
People are just popping it on. Like, that's the way I am. I just turn my TV on and say, "Oh yeah, I'll watch the Olympics for an hour while I'm relaxing." Like, I get
who's that? Simone Biles? Is that right? Last night, the whole bar. Like, I was at a restaurant, and the whole bar was watching a few nights ago. It was Sunday night. The whole place was going crazy. So there's still interest in it.
For particular events and particular celebrity Olympians, that people know and follow, but yeah,
let me bring this up.
I'm not sure. I know, and I'm not sure that again, that the Olympics is all it's cracked up to be, or that this is the holy grail that the game of bowling should be chasing. I'm glad you brought this up.
Yeah.
Juan actually made a comment similar to this while Belmo was on. And
yeah,
I
let's
thought
read
that
it.
was a good comment too. Go ahead.
So he wrote, "We are going back to having bad management in our top organizations and our regional organizations. If we do not know, is because they do not communicate. That should be the most talk about topic in order to bring ideas together to improve." I mean, we've talked about it, and Belmo hit the nail on the head with that, right?
Yeah, and I asked him a question about that, because I think to me that's like, if you're going to make a push to try and do that, then yeah, you better have, your ducks in a row in terms of who the leadership is of this game at the world level and at each country level. And yeah, I have to say, like, I think about the PBA League and what an exciting product we've seen that to be, right? Even though we feel like the most hasn't been made of that, it's still been a very exciting product. And I think about, wow, like, what if every year or every other year there really was a world competition for bowling, and you had Belmo and his team from Australia, and you had Bill and the best bowlers from the United States representing the U.S., and Sweden would obviously have a good team, and England would probably have a decent team with Dom and Stu to start. So, like, what that's what I think. Like, it would produce a good product. Like, putting that out on the stage. In some kind of way, in my viewpoint, especially if you're going like Baker format, and like Belmo said, let's not do a 50-game qualifying with 15,000 pins. Let's make it quick. Let's get to an exciting Baker format, right? Let's find the balance, like he said, between the rules and how we play the game and the entertainment value of what we're going for. And Baker format kind of supplies that in a way. You even a couple years ago, Rob, at the World Championships, which now a lot of teams aren't attending, right? I mean, we just covered that not too long ago, that because of the problems in the IBF, a lot of teams aren't even attending the World Championships, so that's no longer. But a few years back at the World Championships, Italy actually won and beat the U.S. So you've had some upsets there, which would be like good Olympic stories. So I don't know. Like, to me, the lack of leadership across the board and the fact that a lot of different things are affected by that lack of leadership, I think that has something to do with it. Let's bring up Theo's comment
Theo?
here. He says it seems like certain events in the Olympics get put on a higher platform when there's someone involved that is dominant. Swimming, nobody watched it until Phelps. Women's gymnastics, our U.S. women's team been dominant for many years, etc.
Usain Bolt.
Theo, during that interview, I wrote down, one appeal of the Olympics is winners. That's what I wrote down, because early in that piece, Belmo was discussing, what's the appeal? How do sports appeal to the Olympics? Well, one appeal of the Olympics is winners, right? And bowling has that. Bowling has its champions amongst champions, right? So that's definitely something that we could offer as well. But yeah, I don't. To be clear on all this, I'm not that big a fan of the Olympics, especially with the cheating history of the Olympics and the doping and things like that. Like, one selling point that I would have if I was selling bowling to an Olympic committee is like, yeah, we're clean. We're a clean sport. Yeah, you ain't gonna find anybody cheating through chemical means.
Cheating
in bowling.
I was gonna say,
you
like,
might
I don't
find
know.
a lot of chemicals in bowlers' bodies if you test them.
I was gonna say, watch last week's show. Watch last week's show.
Not what I was saying. Not what I was saying. You might find a lot of chemicals in bowlers' bodies if you test them. You ain't gonna find any performance-enhancing drugs. I mean, they might be performance-enhancing drugs to those bowlers, but I don't know.
I don't know, man. We might have to check EJ Tackett for like performance-enhancing drugs.
Yeah, but I'm kind of over the pursuit of the Olympics. Joey in the chat just commented the obsession with the Olympics is weird, man. And I'm not going to say it's weird, but I understand the prestige of it. I understand the athletes wanting it. I understand Belmo wanting to be in the Olympics or Bill wanting to be in the Olympics. I 100% understand that, but I'm kind of over it myself. Like when Belmo talked about the question of, do you invest in the game or do you invest in the Olympics?
Invest in the game.
To me, invest in the game. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah,
it's not worth it chasing the Olympics, especially when the Olympics is now selling its own soul by having something like breakdancing. Which, come on. I mean, if you're going to sit here and try and tell me that breakdancing deserves to be an Olympic sport, I mean, I don't care how many people sit in the stands and watch it. I know breakdancing is entertaining. I know dance battles are hype, but it ain't an Olympic sport. I'm sorry, and they're only bringing it on again to appeal to younger generation, younger viewers, etc. And
yeah, I mean, and look, like, to sum it up, I think, and I could talk another hour about some of the info that I found out. I think when it really comes down to it, and I'll say it again, is bowling needs to focus on itself, invest in itself, invest in the people, invest in your players. I'm really excited to hear Belmo talk about players being entertaining. But he has the ability to be a little bit more entertaining on shows of all of the success that he's had, right? So he might be able to loosen up a little bit and have a little bit of more fun with entertainment wise. But
I wanted to ask him if what his opinion. And again, I didn't really want to interrupt because of time constraints, but I wanted to ask him what his opinion would be on going shot for shot on the shows.
Oh, we'll have him back on.
To allow a more vibrant celebration by the player and a period of time to refocus before they have to throw that next shot, as opposed to the 2-2-2-2 format. But
one of the questions that I asked some people is like, what about Bolero being involved? I mean, they have the money to like maybe throw around, and Bolero having bowling in the Olympics would definitely like help Bolero, right? I mean, you would think, right? If bowling had a little bit of viewership on the Olympics and there was a little bit more interest from other people, people like, oh, we should go bowling, right? And guess what? You're probably around the Bolero somewhere. So you would think like maybe Bolero would want to be involved, or the upper execs would want to be involved with the Olympics and try to get them. But Look,
that might be my favorite comment of the night. 3Bet1 says cosmic bowling might get in.
So really what it comes down to, Mike, is essentially, sum it up real quick, is we need better leadership. The bowling world needs to come together and rally around a couple of leaders, share and it needs to invest in itself, make a better product, make a more money, appeal to youth, and let the Olympics eventually come to us in a sense, right? Where you could, now you have all your ducks in a row, and now you could like ask that girl out and she'll say yes. Okay. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where I'm just going to leave it.
All right. So can we wrap up then? Yeah,
we can wrap up. Do you want to talk about the Luci Doubles real quick?
Well, let me do league review.
Okay. Oh, your league review. You bold.
Yeah. I mean, let's not. I mean, this is interview with Belmo. Interview with the GOAT. This ain't how people show up. People show up for a league review. So I walk into the bowling center this week, and I see an argument ensuing. Right as soon as I walk in.
This is better than I'd rather hear this thing.
Believe me, I understand from talking around that people want to hear the drama more.
Okay, so what happened?
Even my league review. So there was an argument ensuing, and the argument was between Mr. X, and I have a new character here. I have a new character involved in this drama this week. We're going to refer to this person as Mr. 250. Okay, so
Mr. X and Mr. 250.
Yeah, now Mr. X was yelling a couple pairs away at Mr. 250. Practice hadn't even started yet, but Mr. X was yelling at Mr. 250, and Mr. 250 is actually the person who I believe, from what I heard, openly accused Mr. X of sandbagging and sort of like was the catalyst behind the investigation of Mr. X. Okay.
Oh man, this
so
is
Mr. X is yelling at Mr. 250, telling Mr. 250, "You're a sandbagger." Okay. And Mr. X's teammate is yelling at Mr. 250, telling him, "Yeah, you averaged 250 and you missed 5 single pin spares in one set. How can somebody that averages 250 miss 5 single pin spares in one set?"
How could anybody with the nickname Mr. 250 be a sandbagger?
I think what they were implying is that he was trying to bring his average down, I guess, is what they're saying. Now, I'll be honest, I know both these bowlers. I'm standing in the back saying, "Who's 250? Who's 250? Someone's one of these people's 250? Who's 250? Show me that on paper, son." Nonetheless, this argument was ensuing. So Mr. 250, he comes down. He walks down my way. And I now, again, I told him, I said, this is an interesting situation to me because 2 weeks ago, you were the witness. Now, it seems like you're the defendant. It seems like you're being turned into the defendant. Do you want to know what Mr. 250's response was to me, son?
What's that?
He said, "Do you want to get a pair and bowl after we're done?" That's what Mr. 250's response to me was. Ooh. So my response back to Mr. 250 was, "Do I want to get a pair and bowl you on the house shot where you averaged supposedly 250? No, I don't. Do you want to bowl on something real?" And then he said to me, "Well, I don't know if they will even put it out." And I said, "Well, you're the house pro here, clearly. So you're the one who should have the connection. So you let me know." Long story short, he never let me know. So I guess they wouldn't put it out, or maybe he didn't even ask. But nonetheless, league review, summer league. Summer league is, I'm having fun. I'm enjoying myself. I'm glad I'm bowling in it. But it's been a bit of a disaster bowling wise. Yeah, I shot 660. It was just an average night. I went front 7 the last game, and then I went front 7, 7-10, strike 7-10. That's how I ended the game. 2 7-10s on the same lane. Bowled pretty terribly the second game. I think I shot like 180. So I think I went like 230, 180, and then like 240, high 240, something like that. Going front 7, 7-10, strike 7-10. So not a great night, I mean, it was whatever. My knee felt okay. That was the good news. I actually was like throwing the ball with some authority, which was good. I think I figured out what, if I really wanted to like invest and whack this place. Like if you told me, "Oh, you're bowling a 36-week league here in the winter on the house," Yeah, I need something that hooks less because you got to play straighter in this place to carry, and I'm starting too far left because of my role and because there's a lot of hook built into the lane and because of the balls I'm using. So like I would really need something that's like a marble that's gonna like skid very very clearly in the oil, not respond to friction a whole lot. And I feel like that would help me sort of play them a little bit straighter and keep my angles closed, and that would allow me to carry better.
Just
Because that,
something just
that's the
smooth,
only thing. Like I think the
smoother.
last 2 weeks I've only left less than 9 in 6 games. I think I left less than 9 like 3 times.
Well, what are you throwing
So
right now? Venom Shock?
Venom Shock, yeah, Venom
Yeah,
Shock.
it's good. You could probably do something smoother earlier.
Yeah,
Like,
I threw a Game Breaker 4.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Game
still a little
Breaker
bit
4.
aggressive. Yeah,
No, Game Breaker 5,
a
the
hybrid.
hybrid one, the hybrid one.
That's
Yeah,
pretty aggressive.
yeah, that's the thing. Like in the oil, it looks good, but then when it hits the dry,
It's
it just sees
overreacts.
it so fast. Like
It does.
that's every ball to me sees the dry so fast. Like as soon as it gets outside of 8, it's like oh that it's going high. It's going to touch it and just go high, and that's what
Yeah,
happens. I leave it 3, 6, 10. I leave a little
yeah.
smooth here there.
It sounds
So
like you need a weaker pin with some
yeah,
surface.
yeah, weaker pin, a little bit of surface to smooth it out. Something that's
Yeah, I put
something
something
that's
like a five
not as
5 inch
responsive.
pin. I put a 5 inch pin under your like your middle finger and kick the CG out, and then put some surface on it and use something like middle. You don't need something like super weak, but something middle of the road. And I'm just trying to think of like what's good out there that you could probably do it, but I'd have to think off the top of my head, like some of the really good balls that you could use that are really smooth. Summit or something in that nature, right? Like I think maybe asymmetrical even. Symmetrical is going to be too responsive off the dry. So something
Yeah, so
asymmetrical, pin under the middle, like 5 inch pin.
average week, having fun, having a good time.
Yeah.
So
But hey,
here's the good news. Sport League's back on for this winter. We got
oh,
we got 13 doubles teams lined up to bowl.
nice.
Looks like it's going to be 14, maybe 15 teams. So
Is Mr.
Sport
X
League is
bowling?
back on. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm printing up invitations this week. I'm designing and printing up invitations to join the Sport League, and I'm going to walk around on Monday nights in my house league, and I'm going to go to all the heavy hitters, and I'm going to give them a personal invitation to stop playing from the ladies' tees and come play from the men's tees.
That's what your flyer should say.
That's what I'm going to say. I'm
But
going
the
to
flyer
say,
should say that.
here's your invitation to come and start playing from the men's tees.
Nice.
Now, so listen,
That's
I'm going to
it.
be insufferable for the next couple of weeks in this league. So
I love
if you
it.
listen to this and you bowl with me there and you're bowling anywhere around me, I apologize in advance for my behavior because
Dude, what is
yeah.
why is Lucas so much like he's so miserable tonight? Everything out of
man.
his typing is just misery. I've never blocked anybody on this show, but Lucas might get the block like Flo. I might block him like Flo blocked him, you know.
Flo didn't block him. He still works for Flo, you dope.
Flo bowling, I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway. We'll see what happens.
Luci.
Oh,
Simo.
Simo.
Win again. I mean, any no?
I didn't get a chance to watch
surprise?
any of it. I didn't get a chance to watch it. And I'll tell you why I didn't get a chance to watch it. I put something about this on my Twitter account. Like, I'm just not a fan of the format. Like, there wasn't any really motivation for me to watch it. If it was a best of 5 or Baker, and I was able to bet on it and stream it on Bowl TV, I probably would have watched it. But the total pinfall, I don't know. There was just zero motivation for me to watch. So I'll be honest with you. I didn't really watch it. That's just my at least opinion.
I was too busy to watch.
Man, you're the busiest man in America now. I used to make fun of me for being the busiest man in America.
Didn't get a chance to watch, but
Nico wants to know about the couch post. I'm really not interested in the PWBA regionals and the entries.
Did follow the tournament all weekend. Like, did check the scores after each squad. Was following it on social media. To me, nothing really that surprising. Like, the cream rises to the top in that tournament every year. So when you get to the 12 finalists, it's pretty much, a list of some of the best bowlers out there, male and female. So really no crazy surprises. And to see Simo and Daniel McEwen win again, obviously, again, not a surprise there. So yeah,
what was the
impressive streak by them.
What was the first place prize for that? Was that like 8,000 each?
I think it's 10,000 each.
10,000 each.
I believe so. Yeah, and it does count as a PBA and PWBA title.
Did Danielle save her season with that one title? Because she didn't really have a good year.
I don't know, but Simo gave himself a third title, for more titles than anybody else. I know it's probably not going to make a difference in the Player of the Year running.
No, EJ.
But I mean, just another year where Simo has an unbelievable year. EJ edges him out. Is going to edge him out a little bit as we would expect. But
yeah, it's over.
Just another incredible year by him. And really for them to win it back to back, shout to them.
Yeah, I mean, look, Simo's arguably the second best bowler in the world right now, right? And I would be very confident saying that. EJ first, Anthony second, and probably Belmo third. But maybe you could put even Bill third right now. But there's a little bit of. But there's no argument here if you're going to ask anybody who knows anything about PBA Tour this season and last season, and EJ Tackett right now is the best player in the world. I mean, there's really no argument about it. But that should be a really good rivalry going forward. I mean, for years, honestly, them two just going back and forth. So yeah, shouts to Anthony, Danielle for winning back to back. It's hard to do. A lot of good teams in that tournament, Mike.
No doubt.
All right. Anything else? You good? You want to finish it up?
Yeah, let's go.
We do it.
All right, my worst of the week this week comes from none other than the Bowling Science Forum. This post is by Phil DeFranco. Phil DeFranco, congratulations. You won worst of the week. Here's the post. In my summer league last Thursday, I noticed a player on the other team using an abrasive pad on his ball several times after the match started. I didn't say anything at the time. This is just a fun league. But isn't that forbidden by USBC rules? I mean, we're several levels to this of why I gave it worst of the week. First, it's a fun league, so shut up. It doesn't matter. Okay, that's number one. Number two, you decided not to say anything, but you're going to come on the forum and post about it. Number three, you're asking if it's against the rules. You know it's against the rules because you already pointed it out.
Right.
And you were bowling. So, enough, bro. Just leave it go. It either matters or it doesn't. It's either competitive enough or it's not. If you're bowling against Mama Mia and Papa Pia, and they take out their little Aberlon pad and they douse their bowling ball with it, just let them go. Okay? Don't say nothing. Don't post on the internet about it. Don't ask whether it's a rule or not. Just keep bowling. Okay, just keep bowling for your vacation league championship. Thank you.
My worst of the week was emailed to us. I don't ever want to give the people who email just in case they unless they let me give permission for them to send me the worst of the week and shout their name on air. It's from Motive Bowling. It's going to a gentleman named Mike Lester. He writes, the first night back after getting the jackal tattoo. Okay. He got a jackal tattoo. I could show the picture, but I mean, I don't really need to. So he got the Motive logo jackal tattoo on the back of his hand, Mike. Literally, right on the back of his hand. After getting the jackal tattoo, he threw the crimson all night, had a couple bonehead first game, then went to work. But, just an average night. Last 4 league nights. 795, 767, 734, 752. I always talk about how we're in a bowling ball epidemic, Mike. I don't mind bowling tattoos. I've seen tattoos with people have 710 split or
that's not a bowling tattoo. That's a patch piracy tattoo.
Yeah, I'm
Let's be
just saying,
clear.
like, I have no issues with bowling tattoos, right? Like, a general bowling tattoos where, like, whatever it is, right? I saw Charlie Brown throwing a strike or whatever it is, right? But when you start getting logo or brand or bowling ball logo tattoos, it definitely is another level of patch piracy. And at least if you're going to get a logo or a good like a tattoo of a
No,
bowling
there
ball.
is no at least here.
Well,
You
let
can
me
go
finish
ahead
my
with your
statement.
statement, but let's be
Let me
clear, there
statement.
is no at least.
If you're going to get a bowling ball tattoo, get a good bowling ball tattoo, okay? Like, okay, get a good one. Get a V2.
Get a Teal Rhino Pro.
A Teal Rhino Pro. Get a V2 sanded Vortex 2. Get a Piranha C tattoo, okay? Get a legendary old school vintage
Get a high
bowling.
road. Get a high road tattoo.
Get at least a
If
good
you're gonna
tattoo.
go motive, get a Venom Shock tattoo.
Venom Shock. But a Jackal, I mean, come on, really? Like, you now, not only do you have a bowling ball tattoo on the rest of your life, but you have a shitty bowling ball, right, tattoo on the rest of your life. So that's just my opinion. But look, like,
what's amazing about that is that, and people ain't gonna like that I say this, but what amazes me most about that is that someone believes enough in their bowling on house conditions that they went as far as to get a tattoo related to their bowling on house conditions.
And then talked about all the 700s.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
Another night,
I mean, like you got to be a little more aware than that. I feel like you got to be a little more aware than that. You're either you're purposefully ignoring things at that point, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing. But let's be clear: bowling tattoos, brand associated bowling tattoos. Okay, let's be clear: brand associated bowling tattoos should be put under the same rule as names of significant others. Just don't do it. Just don't do it. It's not a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, I still have to get that big bowling tattoo I have on my back lasered off.
The naked woman holding the two pins is that the one you still got that one? I thought
I'm talking about the big bowling brand.
Big bowling brand. Okay.
I still have to get that lasered off my back,
Okay.
So just I mean, look, don't do it. All right, Reich, let's finish this up.
My favorite comment of the night was from Lucas Wiseman when he said that his parents owned a gymnast training center. If you know, I mean, Lucas, it's hilarious that your parents owned a gymnast training center. Seriously, that is just gold to me. I can't even believe you put that out there. That is absolute gold to me. I have so many questions for you, bro. So many questions for you based on that comment, bro. Rob, my final thought is PBA action still continuing. PBA 50, PWBA, PBA trios taking place. So if you want to check out some PBA action, you want to get your professional bowling fix, Bowl TV will have that this week. Qualifying already started. I believe Brad Miller led the qualifying for the PBA section. Paul Fleming, that's a name from the past, led the qualifying for the PBA 50.
Paul Fleming, man, that is a milk carton of all milk cartons right there.
It is. And the name escapes me of who led for the women. If someone wants to drop it in the chat,
I'm sure Nico knows.
But yeah, they're gonna be pairing those qualifiers up and bowling from there. So again, if you want to check that out, you can.
Like it. My final thought is actually Nico brought it up in the chat. Man, it sucks to be Brad Miller right now. In a sense, I can't imagine, and you really have to understand how hard it is to bowl, a big set at USBC at the national tournament. They are not easy. They can get easy if they break them down the right way, but shooting 800 in singles is a feat. Is hard to do, and to be in the lead and thinking you're going to get an eagle, and then having someone shoot, I believe it was 814 or 815 the last day, to beat you for an eagle is a bad beat of all bad beats. If that was me and I was Brad Miller, I would be. It's almost like you're at 95% going to the river, and you have 2 outs or 1 out to beat you out of a hand, and then all of a sudden, boom, the dealer drops the card and you lose. That's got to be tough because you don't really know. 825. Thank you, Nico, for the correction. Shot 825 to beat him. That is a huge number in that tournament. So, shouts to the gentleman who bowled it. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but man, like I was just feeling bad for Brad Miller after having the guy double in the 10th, like what Nico says, to pass him. So, yeah, I mean, he'll get a shot again, but you don't really get a lot of shots to do that, to win an eagle in that tournament. It's one of the hardest tournaments, in my opinion, to win because of all the entries and all the great bowlers that bowl. And the tournament literally is like 4 to 5 months. So, that's my final thought. But yeah, great show, Mike. Glad to get Belmo on here, catch up with him a little bit.
Yeah, good discussion. Shout to Primetime Poppy for bringing it up on Twitter and kind of giving us the inspiration to use it as a topic on our show.
I'm done, Mike. I'm done with US. I'm done with the Olympic. The only time you'll ever hear me discuss Olympic bowling will be if there is some major news in the bowling world. But this topic, I think I'm done talking about for a really long time.
Let's grow the game and not worry.
Let's grow the game.
I agree. Let's get it to a point where the Olympics has to come to us. I like the way that you put that.
Let the girl ask us out, Mike.
True. We're gonna leave it there. Hit us up on social media. He's Brooklyn Rob 11. I'm at the 215 on X. That's usually where we're most active. Email us, sweeptherack@gmail.com. We love the emails. We'll do some emails later as the summer goes on and there's less actual bowling topics to talk about. Like Primetime Poppy on Twitter, on X, hit us up. You might give us an idea. You might give us something that we really want to get into that we didn't think about. So definitely always feel free to reach out. Rob, overtime tonight for me. I don't want to hear it from anybody. I'm up here at 11:30 at night still getting my grind on for the people. That's all right. We appreciate all of you. We appreciate all you who came out and watched, came out and listened. We appreciate all of you that tune in. Do us a favor, like, subscribe. It does help us kind of grow the channel.
Please.
If you do that, we'd appreciate it. And
tell your friends.
We'll be back to the people next week, probably at a regular time.
Later, guys. Peace.
You are now listening to Sweep the Rack podcast featuring Brooklyn Rob and Big Mike.